Well, good morning. Today is March 18th, 2022, and it's time to get this RCA Vibro-Champ boutique amplifier bolted together in final assembly. Before I closed up this beautiful chassis, I wanted to go over some of the features and talk about why I did some of the things I did. And some of it can be debated from now until Christ returns, but it's my amp and it's the way I wanted to build it. So this is the front of the amplifier where you have your input and potentiometers, your controls, your toggle switch, your pilot light, all that good stuff. So if you'll notice, everything is hard mounted into this chassis so that when I insert this into the cabinet, I can actually put the captive nuts for the pots on the front of the cabinet. Same with the pilot light. The nut for the pilot light here is soldered onto the bracket. The bracket is bolted down to the chassis. And so that way I can just screw the jewel in, etc., etc. It'll make sense when you see it. This little guy here is your 6.3 volt filament circuit for the pilot light, but it also goes out to the lights that are inside the cabinet, which backlight the radio dial, which is going in the cabinet, as you'll see later. Some of the other unique features. Well, I'm proud of this. I wanted to do point-by-point wiring, point-to-point, but I couldn't get my head around it because I've never done that before. So I bought a blank turret board, laid it out, drilled it, pressed in my own turrets, and did this myself, which is pretty cool. Instead of going with a can capacitor, I went with these, similar to the 5F1 circuit, if you will. And so I'm proud of that. That's pretty cool. That's my achievement. The next thing here that's really not necessary by most people's evaluation, but I did it anyway. Nick from Cherrytone, who makes some great amplifiers, does this to protect the circuit. Should you have an internal short in your rectifier tube, these diodes will pick up and become the rectifier. Again, thank you to a great mentor of mine who said he hasn't seen a rectifier tube ever do that in 50 years. Well, I'm the guy that it would happen to. And with the shortage of parts and supplies these days, why not take a few 50-cent diodes and a cheap capacitor and make your little protection here? It doesn't hurt anything. And again, on the output tube, we have the, I believe it's called the grid stop resistor here to provide protection. So kind of cool stuff. Went with a little circuit board to distribute my filament voltage. Got them coming in and dropping down like I should to prevent noise. And along with noise abatement, we've also got our RG174 cable for our signal path, which helps big time. This particular little terminal board that you see right here actually came out of the old radio that I disassembled, the old radio cabinet. So I was able to reuse one component internal, which is really cool. I used a grounding jack for the tremolo circuit so that when it's unplugged, the tremolo's not on, okay? You have a toggle switch to take the negative feedback out. If you want to do that, it just takes it straight out of there. You also have a tone stack lift switch here, which takes the tone components out and makes it more like a tweed or a champ. And it works really good, gives it a nice little signal boost. So a very versatile little amp for a single-ended 5-watt amplifier. And that's the look inside. And very proud of that. Now, I did use a Hammond chassis, 12 by 10 by 2. It fit perfectly in the cabinet, as you'll see later. And the only thing I built was the bottom plate, which stands up on these feet inside the cabinet to give it the proper clearance so I could mount the pots. It did come from a stop sign, and yes, I did not steal it. There's nobody out crashing at an intersection. I bought that at a local recycle and salvage place. I thought it'd make good metal for that. So I had to at least say I made something for this beautiful chassis. But I'm very proud of this. My first chassis that I built without an instruction kit. And I used layouts that I found on the internet and did a few changes. And I couldn't have done it without Terry and Uncle Doug and Nick at Cherrytone. More to come in part 2. Thank you.